Okay. I want to welcome everybody to the October 2020 work session on broadband. This time I'd like to call this work session to order. Could I have approval of the agenda this time?
So moves, Chairman.
We have approval. We have a second? Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Good. Again, I'd like to welcome you, and I was going to turn it over to Mr. Risner because you can kind of give a brief history on broadband with the county, where we've been and where we're at now.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to do that. I thought maybe I could kind of quickly go back through the presentation from a few years ago where we kind of talked some about broadband generally, and then some about a project that we were trying to assemble at the time, and that may be helpful to us as we chart the path forward. So if it's okay, I'll just kind of quickly go through this, and then I thought we could also spend some time after we do this looking at the new Department of Community Affairs map. Greg Mullis was nice enough to provide us with a couple copies of it over there, and we can also pull it up online and zoom in. There's some interesting things there, differences between the old FCC map and the new map. So once we go through this, I'll pull those maps up and we can take a look at that. I'm going to kind of zoom through this. Y'all just stop me if you have questions or anything about these items. So availability and speed are the two things you hear about with broadband. There are several different ways that you can get internet, and this is a good little table that kind of shows you what types of speed you can expect with different methods of receiving it. So a DSL, you think about the old dial-up kind of thing, up to 24 megs, sort of in the top left there. With cable internet, which we have in some places in the county, been lit by somebody else, or you can light the fiber yourself if it's dark. So these are sort of the different steps in a fiber distribution network. So you have long haul fiber. It comes to a colo site. Colo is short for co-location. And then you have a distribution network, and then off of that distribution network you have fiber to the home. So this is sort of a map of long haul fiber that is in the ground or was in the ground as of a couple of years ago, and this is fiber that the telephone co-op that we were working with has access to. So you can see they have fiber up into Virginia, and then out to the West Coast, all the way down to Miami, I believe it is, on the East Coast, and then a good bit here in Georgia. So this is kind of what a colo facility looks like. It's basically just a room filled with computers. That's my layman's description of it. There's obviously a lot more to it than that, but this is sort of the off-ramp. So you think about that long haul fiber that goes all over the country. You got to get off of it some kind of way, and so you do that at a colo facility. You'll also hear those called a POP. From the outside, this kind of looks like one of those buildings you'd see under a water tank or under a cell phone tower. It's sort of a reinforced concrete type building, and it has all sorts of lightning protection and everything built into it to protect that computer equipment. Okay, this is fuzzy, but this is kind of an important one. So maybe start at the home. So down there towards the bottom, you see the yellow lines going to those houses. So that's the fiber to the home piece. That goes out to those red lines, which is sort of your distribution network. You also have the local convergence point there, which is where all those red lines come together. So that would essentially be your POP or your colo facility. And then you have the blue lines there that go back to that building looking thing, which that would be your long haul fiber. So that's kind of how it gets to your house in a very small picture. All right, so the project that that we were looking at, I guess the origin of it, Will was here a few minutes ago. Will and I took a trip over to Columbia County just through some people that I knew there. They started a broadband utility probably 2010 or 2012. They had they got some stimulus money after the recession, and they used some of that stimulus money to put up towers and to build this fiber network. And so we took a little field trip over to Columbia County, met with their folks, and Lewis Foster was the guy's name that was there that had really built theirs from the ground up. And he was for years and years the IT guy for Columbia County, and then when they decided to get into this, they put him over that. And unfortunately, Lewis has moved on to Virginia now, and he's building a network for a community there. But he was our point of contact there. Through him, we met Stephen Milner, who was with Planners Telephone Cooperative. Planners is over in East Georgia, primarily in Screven County. There's not a whole lot in Screven County. It's not real close to anything. But he's got a state-of-the-art network there through a telephone cooperative. And they provide gigabit internet service to people in Screven. I think there may be 7,000 people in Screven County. So, I mean, it's very, very rural. But they're fortunate to have that telephone cooperative there that has invested heavily in fiber. And so those were our points of contact. We got introduced to them for a number of years. They had been looking for their own business purposes. They had been looking for a route from that East Georgia area into Atlanta, and there were a number of pretty lengthy routes, but there was not a more direct route. Sort of think about up towards I-20 and that way. And so they were trying to find something. They looked one time at going up towards Athens. That didn't work out. And so they started looking at more of a southern route, to get to Atlanta. And so they had a business need there, and it sort of matched up with a lot of rural communities needing broadband. And I think that's something that I was going to mention today. I think is a key aspect of all this is if you can find a situation where you've got a private provider that has a business need, and you can kind of bring that together with our need. If they need to come through here anyway, it's a lot easier to make the case for a good project, and it's a win-win for everybody. So it's not so much just us going out on a limb. You've got a private company that has a real business need that it can help meet. So so that's kind of how we got brought into the conversation. And so this is a little bit hard to see, but this is so this was going to be the path, and this is still important for us today because we're still working on this. So this was going to come out of the area to the far right is Columbia County. The red sort of concentration of red up there in the upper right is Columbia County. That's their network that they've built out. So it was going to come out of there through McDuffie, Warren, Hancock, Baldwin, and then it was going to come initially, before we got involved, it was going to go sort of catch the corner of Putnam County and go up to Monticello and to Flovilla, and then it was going to go down to Wilkinson County and tie back in at Gordon. And we told them we have a very real need here, and so we were able to kind of work our way into the discussions of this project. And so that was sort of the route that we were working on. At some point after this, Glasscock County, which is just south of Warren County, there was brought into the mix, and then this shows fiber in gray, and so that was sort of the route. I'll mention it, sort of pause the presentation and just give you an update on where we are right now with this. So the part of this, it was going to be funded a couple different ways. One was USDA Reconnect funds, and they were going to be used for Hancock County, Glasscock County, and Warren County. After extended study and considerable expense on the part of the telephone co-op, they determined that they weren't going to be able to access those funds. And then the state still has not allocated funds for any sort of other program. So the funding piece of it is kind of stalled out at this point. But even if that larger route doesn't work out, you can see the route that comes down. So the blue line, can everybody see kind of the faint blue line that comes down and goes through? It says Flovilla there, and it comes straight down into Jones County, and it sort of makes a hard right, and then it goes a little ways, and then it goes straight down. Can everybody find that blue line? So that is fiber that's in the ground right now, and has been for 20 or so years. And that is the most heavily used fiber route in Georgia. And so it has been in Jones County for 20 years. And Commissioner Kitchens has got a good story about that. I won't steal your thunder on that. But yeah, it's been here for a long time. And so this project, in any of its forms, would come off of that and then tie back into that. So where we are now is working with Jasper County and Wilkinson County to see if we can revive this, just sort of coming off right there at Flovilla, coming down through Jones County into Wilkinson County, and then tying back in down there at the very bottom where you see Gordon. There's a spot to tie back in there. So that's sort of where we are at the present time with this. As part of this, we went through, and I have one of these on the easel there if anyone wants to look at it later. We went through and came up with a list of sites around the county facilities that we felt like would be important to connect to this network, and we prioritized them 1, 2, and 3. We places like the government center, the courthouse, the industrial park. Wanted to make sure we included that. A lot of our water and sewer facilities, it would make sense to include, just to have them all connected with a reliable internet connection. We did place them in a lower priority because some of them are not easy to get to, and I'll get into the expense of all this in just a minute. And then we also included the schools. We talked during that time with the superintendent and their IT folks about potentially extending the fiber to those schools as the project was going. So we got a good map of sites around the county that we would want to connect, and that'll be something that we can use whether this project comes to fruition or something else. We've got a good prioritized list there that we can refer back to. I just talked a little bit about legislative action. Still no funding there that'll be terribly helpful to us. So these were things that I thought were kind of interesting that we learned along the way. This was the fiber route that I was talking about. most heavily used fiber route in Georgia. It was been in place for 20 years. 6.7 miles from there to the center of Gray. And as of the time I put this together, it had never been built off of. So, you know, there are internet companies that use it for different things, but it's just for long haul fiber. It's owned by, my understanding is it's owned by STI, which is part of Southern Company, which is a subsidiary of Southern Company. And so I think they use it for their own purposes. And I don't know what all those are exactly, but they will not just to anyone, but occasionally they will allow people to access it and use it for a fee. So yeah, some of this gets over my head, but yeah, my understanding is they're the owners of it. There was a company named Level 3, I think, at one time that was part owner of it, and maybe some others have been involved as well. But it connects back up to, if you're around fiber folks or IT folks enough, you hear them talk about 55 and 56 Marietta Street, and those are places in Atlanta. It's giant buildings downtown. They're filled with computers, and that's where you want to be able to get back to, is 55 and 56 Marietta Street. That fiber goes right into there. So it's an important route, and it'd be great to be able to have access to that. So cost to put fiber in the ground, it's about $30,000 a mile in rural areas, and closer to $60,000 in more developed areas. Now that's assuming that you bury it. There, in some of my conversations with Jasper County, which is just very much in its infancy, one thing my contact there mentioned was, maybe you put it on poles to save some of that cost. I mean, obviously you sacrifice something in the way of reliability. You could always have a tree fall on something that's attached to a pole, but that would be a way to save considerably on the cost. So that's kind of something to keep in mind too as we go forward. Location. So part of the project we talked about, one of the crucial points, or one of the crucial aspects of it, I guess, was we wanted to put a colo facility in each downtown along the route. So Thompson, Warrenton, Sparta, Milledgeville, Gray, and you do that because so you see in these pictures, you see the sort of rods going up. There's yellow on the side of them. What you want is for companies to come to you and say, hey, we want to be in Gray. We want to serve customers in Gray. We'll pay you $2,000 a month for, this much space in one of those racks. And so, whether that's Google or AT&T or Cox or whoever, if you have that in a place where you've got some density, they're more likely to come to you and say, hey, we want to put some equipment in this facility. We want to serve customers in this area. So there have been some other projects in the past where grants have been given out and that kind of thing, and they'll put the colo facility. There's one. You've probably all been down 75 and seen the exit for Ashburn, and I know you've been to Ashburn plenty of times. So there's fiber that runs right through the middle of Ashburn, and but they've got internet problems down there just like anywhere else, and it's because they put the colo facility about 5 miles out of town, And so, you know, if any internet company wants to serve people in Ashburn, they're 5 miles away. You know, it's a lot easier if you have that sort of jumping off point in a downtown or in a setting where you've got some density. So those were just my closing thoughts. I think I've covered all that. One other interesting part of this was that Georgia College was a key player in all of this, and they, you know, they've got, I don't know, 5,000 or 8,000 or 10,000 students over there, whatever it is now, and you know, they all sit on their phones or on their computers using internet, and so they were screaming for more bandwidth. And so this, they were a key partner on this, and you know, they were open to hosting a colo facility there on the campus, and so you know, that opportunity may still be there. We'll kind of fill that out and see if they're still in need of more bandwidth there. So we felt like. And I still feel like this is it's kind of a different approach. It was going through sort of a big swath of Georgia that's underserved from an internet standpoint, and I thought we could have a huge impact on that rural area. And I still think we can. As we went through this, we talked about that sort of fallback option of Jasper, Jones, and Wilkinson, and we may end up back at that point, but anyway, I think that's the end of that little presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. One thing I did want to send around. I don't know if I have enough copies of this for everybody, but send those around. Let me look. I had it in my head. I think it was the beginning of 2019 when I did the workshop. Yeah. It was close.
Here you go, Jason.
You got one more?
You got one more.
I have 40, so tell me all the next
It involves spending money. We don't want it.
So, I was going to see if everybody could turn to page 10, and part of this was, and a lot of the credit for all this goes to Columbia County's broadband department and Planners Telecom. They did a lot of the work assembling these costs and everything. But we went through each county and assembled the cost. And so, and then we have it broken out by priority, so you can see the cost for each priority level there. So for all of Jones County, all of the sites that we had identified, let's see, where was our map? Here's our map. So for all of the sites we identified on this map, there's 4.5 million. And Jasper was 4.3. And you can see the cost by the different counties. So it's a costly proposition. This was sort of designed as a middle mile network. And what you hope is that you put this in the ground and that you have private providers that will come and build off of this. And so, not only can you lease them space in that colo facility, but you can also lease them dark fiber. You lease them a path, and they'll pay you a certain amount per month or per year for a path that gets them closer to what they want to serve. So that's sort of all I have on that. Any questions on all of that?
gonna take a joint effort for it to work.
Sure.
The short route would serve some, but like I said, the original route they were looking at would have been nice to, could get options to feed off of that.
So, Justin, you know, back then we were looking at when it was the rural broadband initiative and we had more counties, and we were really stressing, you know, we need some federal money, state money, and then the counties and cities join in and kind of put some of their own skin in the game, and everybody see how much money we could muster up, and then see what the shortfall was.
Right.
And then we, you know, the second thought was if 3 counties kind of broke away from that, you know, and we did it something more of a local, you know, venture like that. So looking at these numbers of the 4.5 million, just thinking outside the box, we know this is going to be an investment, you know, a big investment, just like water, sewer, everything else. It's not something that I don't think any county is going to say we're going to put something in our budget towards it, or even I don't even think we put a SPOS towards it. You know, it's going to be more than that. But if we have I guess 2-part question: do we do some, instead of having a feasibility study that says where's the biggest need and how much would it take to get there, another feasibility study of this is what it's going to cost to do the whole county. What kind of reinvestments do we need as far as partners? So if we do a co-location in 4 parts of the county, north, south, east, and west of the county, and we get good broadband all around the county, then how many partners do we need, and at what cost a month to lease out of our colo to make it manageable for the debt payment that we'd have to have? So $4.5 million, if we got, you know, 10 renters at $2,000 a month, you know, you know, we're looking at, you know, $1.5 million, you know, a year. How do we, you know, is that a way to get a payback on some investment that we know we got to do? And I, you know, just thinking back on some of the things that creative financing ways they did things in Bibb was, you know, for the county to back it. You know, if we found a group that we get together and finance it, and the county back it, meaning that if this company goes out, then the county backs it, meaning that we will make payments on it, but we will own all the equipment anyway, which personally I think it's a double-edged sword, but I think we do need to have some ownership of colos and stuff like that, because if not, in an unregulated world, it opens us up to the opposite of the of what people are doing with competition. You know, you monopolize a situation that way, because the one with the biggest money is going to have the biggest money.
That's right.
But if we control what our percentage of going out is and our percentage of dollars coming in, we do take the risk and we do have the financial debt, but we're also making them payments, and we own a product that is supplying our community, our residents, our business ventures, our economic drivers. We have some control of that. So I think we need some control in it, but then again, you know, it's an age-old question: does the government really need to be involved in private business like that? You know, I think this is one of them. It's a little different than just a restaurant or a retail store or something. To me.
One other thing that you were touching on right there that we had incorporated in with all of this was that all of the colo facilities along the route were going to be what they call open and neutral. And so a lot of the issues right now is, well, I shouldn't say a lot, but an issue right now is that you know, you may have a jumping off point, a colo somewhere, but it may be an AT&T colo, or it may be, you know, a Cox colo, or whatever the case may be, and they're not just going to let anybody come in because they know that that's competition, you know. And so so one of the aspects of this was having those colos be open and neutral. That was going to be a requirement, and so that, you know, anybody could come lease space to the exclusion of no one. So
Yeah, I think that's our ultimate goal is if we have ownership and that or control of that,
Yeah.
then it doesn't matter if it's Verizon, AT&T, Windstream, whoever. You buy it from anybody you want to buy it from. The price is the same for them to be in our colo and be in our city and be up to our customers.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we control the competition, but the competition is still out there. Because if I want to sell it to you for $50 a month, and Jonathan wants to sell it for $55, and Chairman won't sell it for $45, then which one am I getting the best customer service, and which one am I, am I updating? So that's where you have that competition. So.
Yeah. The other thing I thought we could take a minute and look at, and I'm happy to come back to this if y'all want to in a minute. So as part of one of those House bills that I mentioned there, DCA did a new broadband map of Georgia. And let me go back. So for years and years and years, any sort of broadband funding out there has been based on the FCC maps.
Yeah, those were really great.
Yeah. And so this is the FCC map of Georgia. And so basically the assumption that's built into this is that if one house in a census tract had 25 meg internet or better, the whole census tract was considered served by broadband. And so now what I'm going to do is take this little slider thing and move it across. And DCA got data from all the providers that was, I don't know if more granular is the right word, but it looked at individual houses and that type of thing to get a true picture of how much broadband we had out there and what we didn't. So I'm going to slide this across, and what you're going to see is that a lot of that orange disappears. And so let me see if I can go back across. And, I mean, it's really amazing. One interesting one, I don't know if anyone knows where Wilkes County is, but it's sort of up. If you see Augusta and you sort of follow the state line up, maybe 2 counties, and then it's 1 county to the west. But I mean, it was all colored orange, and then it almost completely goes away. There were some other interesting things I thought were interesting on this map. You see some counties. If you see Statesboro, there's 1 county to the west there, which I believe is Candler County, and then 1 county west of Candler has very good internet. You'll also see if you see Statesboro and you go to the north and east, that's Screven County that we were talking about earlier. There are a few others where you have either, my suspicion is you have either a very progressive EMC or a progressive telephone co-op that has invested in broadband and are providing it to residents there. So, so at least for state funds, this is the map that would be used now. So we have a lot better information in terms of where we have broadband and where we don't.
I think that'll be a lot more useful too when, at least they can we verify that they did put a funding account in legislation last year? From my understanding, they just didn't put any money in it.
I'll check and see. I know when they, maybe it was 2 years ago, they established a line item, but it only ended up with maybe $2 million worth of money, maybe $1 million.
Okay.
I think it was $2 million, and it was really only enough to fund this mapping
Right,
initiative.
right.
And
Yeah,
and,
so
not a whole lot
basically
else.
zero at the end of the session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too, and I don't think they put anything into it with the budget cuts last year.
Right.
I don't even think there was anything in there to cut when they went back and got the cuts. But at least it's hopeful now that the maps look a lot better than they did, and the fund is there. Hopefully they'll put some money towards it, whether it's a grant opportunity or whatever. But I mean, any amount would go towards, something like this that we could then use as an investment.
Absolutely.
Because I know ACCG, they're planning on asking them to put money in that fund so that counties can, apply for a grant or try to help them out. I guess the question that I have, Jason, does the USDA know anything about this plan that we have in place?
So I assume that they do. The Planners Telephone Cooperative, during all this, they hired a consultant to help them put together an application for a USDA grant program called Reconnect. And they sort of ran into three different issues there. And so I assume during all that, they were having conversations with USDA. One of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is you get points for how rural your community is, the rurality points, I think they call them. And so to get all the rurality points, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Hancock County has like one person for every 6 square miles. To get all those rurality points, you had to have one person per 18 square miles. So you had to be 3 times as rural as Hancock County to get those points.
Yep.
And so that's what Commissioner Pitts was touching on last time when he talked about some of the requirements of these grant programs are just impossible, really. So.
The reason why I asked that, Jason, being that we do have a Zoom meeting with Andrew with the USDA on Thursday at 6, I think it would be great to make sure that he has a PowerPoint presentation of this, because what it is, we have a contact with the USDA. We have someone that can see our plan that could also help us, make it that much better. And I think it's almost like an economic development project. Look, we're trying to get shovel ready or a grad site. So we want to have a plan that's grad ready. We got to have a plan that is a pad ready plan, so that as Andrew, here's of plans, here's of grants. Hey, Jason, listen, this has come down the pipe. Your plan looks good. Kind of tighten up these couple of areas so that, you know what, you guys are going to have a really good application if, you do apply for it. And I think that's what's going to help us, having this relationship with Andrew, with the USDA. I think it'll be great. I'm sure you've had some conversations with Tri-County, but to continue that conversation with them, hey, look, we're putting together a pretty good team right here. We got the USDA involved, a contact that knows our plan, knows what we have in place. Tri-County, they've done some research and some studies to see where we could possibly partner together, so that this 4.5 may not be as high, because they may be making some investments themselves.
Yeah.
But I think what we're doing is having this conversation. True enough, we did it in 19, but you know what? That was before COVID. And now that COVID is here, they got CARE funds, and it's really been brought to their attention that, look, this is, really a need in our community. And from some of the letters that were received, I mean, they put together some different initiatives and acts to try to bring this to the forefront and make sure all congressmen and senators know the importance of it, so that we can make an investment. Because Commissioner Kitchen said this right here is becoming like a utility, like water, sewer. Look, people need internet and broadband service, so I think they know that. We have their attention. I think we just need to continue to press forward. And now that COVID hit, they're putting funds out there. Then we need to make sure that we have a PAT ready, grad ready plan in place to make sure that we're really highly considered. I mean, we're going through the steps to become a broadband ready community. So that's going to be another point for us as we continue to move down that track. And please understand, like I've said it before, I said it again, this is not something that's going to happen in the next 6 months, may not happen in the next year, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, maybe 5, but we got to take the steps now so that when everything's ready, it's shovel ready. Jones County is at the top of the list, and Jones County should get those funds versus trying to put a plan together in the fourth quarter when, you know what, if you'd had these steps in place, you'd have been ready. So that's all I want to make sure that the board continues, to work towards, is make sure we stay at the top of the list and be a top priority and a top prospect when it comes to partnership opportunities.
I agree. I think the fact that this board has the buy-in and the will to do stuff like that and to make that investment. Do we have like an asset map for, and where I'm going is I think, we talked about colos before and having, if we have any property that the county owns in a good location, that's something we can use as leverage to say, hey, here's a non-tax piece of property that we can put a concrete building on and build a colo and start leasing out of. We got very minimum investment in it.
Yeah.
You know?
I can, I don't know that I have a map right now, but we could map something like that and we
GIS gurus at. He was in here earlier.
but yeah, that's certainly something we can put together and we did a lot of looking around during this process and during that exercise ultimately settled on, we have an old senior center sort of behind the Tri-County office.
Yeah.
And that's what we had sort of identified as the spot for it during this exercise but yeah, I'd be happy to go back and map out what we have around the county and see what other good locations we might have. I think somewhere down the road the industrial park might make sense too to have something in that area. Hopefully we'll have a need for that kind of thing at some point in the future too. So, but yeah, I'd be happy to look around and see if we can map those.
Yeah, I think identifying on them would be good for our plan too. Let them know we're ready.
Right.
Sounds good.
We've got any citizens tonight like to come forward with any comments or questions? Is there anything else for the work session tonight?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I do want to make sure that that we get a notice, an email out, to anybody that wants to participate in the Zoom on the 22nd at 6 o'clock. It's just going to be a 1-hour presentation from Andrew with the USDA. Just kind of talk about some of the programs and different opportunities that they have. And I think everybody knows in business it's all about having relationships. So we got a relationship with Andrew. We got some relationships up in the Congress and Senate. So let's continue to move forward, with this project and see where it lands us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else tonight? We'll recess and come back for our open meeting.